Hey, welcome back to the J&A Homebuyer channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to calculate an ROI on a rental property. It's a little bit different than a stock or a bond, so we're going to bring to you several things. One, just how to calculate it. Super simple. Why use ROI? What is good ROI on a rental property? What can be expected? And then how does ROI change by using debt or by using leverage? Other people's money, OPM. So stay tuned as we dive into this. If some of the things that we're talking about here don't quite make sense, like how is he calculating profits and whatever, be sure to check out our other video, 4 ways investors make money in rental properties. It's not just your cash flow. Just like a stock, you don't count the return on investment just by the dividends. That would be terrible. There's a lot more ways to make money in a rental property. So stay tuned as we roll this. Let's dive in. All right, so ROI, or return on investment, has a simple way to be calculated. You can simply say it is the gain and then minus the cost, got to put this in parentheses, divided by the cost. So basically this is telling you I put X money in and I got X back. That's a percentage, and it's a good tool. Why do you use this? It's a good tool to evaluate, is this a good investment for me to get into when I'm prospecting new investments? And it's a good tool to evaluate, how are my current investments performing? Are they meeting the goals and metrics that I had set out for them? So use it for what you want, but it's not the end-all be-all in real estate or a financial plan. I am not a financial advisor. I'm an investor in Katy, Texas. J&A Homebuyers buys here in the Houston area, the greater Houston area. So we're not going to give you any financial advice. You need to talk to a financial advisor to build a financial plan. But what I am going to show you in this video today is the compound effects of real estate, how it's different than a stock, and how to dive into really making a lot of wealth or a lot of money through a rental property. It's a little bit different than just cash flow, as we talked about before. So what is a good ROI? This is going to be a really hard one to answer because it really revolves around you and your financial plan, your circumstances. I really like Brandon Turner's book, the book on rental property investing, because in there he gives you several plans and he has a different approach to this. You become like an analysis paralysis if you're just focused on making more money. Money is not the destination. You don't work just to make money. You work to have financial freedom. You work to go on trips and make memories with families, spend the money in different ways, buy certain things, etc. So if you have a plan that you want to get to, he talks in his book how to work backwards with a rental property. And of course, he gets into a whole bunch of other really good things about rental properties. But I actually copied one of my first plans straight out of Brandon's book. And over the years, I started learning tricks in real estate and began to adapt those things to help me get to my goal faster and help reach other financial goals. So really cool book. Highly recommend you check it out, but that's what I would recommend is when you talk about a good ROI, you're going to hear numbers from 7%, 30%, 150%. They're going to be all over the board. If you go look for the absolute best ROI on year one on a property, it's probably a crappy property with a lot of problems, which is why nobody wanted it and why you got a fantastic ROI. Keep that in mind when you're evaluating properties. You need to know your risks on how to fix things, how the market is, any kind of problems or crimes they have in the area. There's a lot more to it, right? But ROI is an awesome tool for wealth growth. So let's dive into now a few numbers to show you specifically how debt can change ROI. There's a big difference, and I'm going to call it the Dave Ramsey model versus the Robert Kiyosaki model, the Rich Dad Poor Dad model. So one of them, Dave Ramsey, says no debt, and Robert Kiyosaki says debt. Right? Let's dive into now an Excel sheet that gets much more detailed into this. As I mentioned, the goal of this is to show you both with debt and without debt how that ROI really changes, right? And also to show you the compound effect of the growth in return over time with real estate. So we're going to dive into here, what are we buying? And this is a fictitious property for $100,000. I know, you can't even find that really in Texas. It's just for easy math. I have a rent of $1,000, so we followed that 1% rule as an example here to buy that. And then I have repairs of $9,000. Now, this property value will go up on average, about 7% per year. That's taking, in Texas, what we saw from 2019 to 2023. That's what we saw here on average, about a 7% growth every year. Of course, there was ups and some less impressive years, but that's what it averaged out. Rent growth, 3%. That's a really hard number to peg down because it's very geographic specific area and the data is not really well tracked. But that's what I've seen in many of the areas where I have rental properties. So I have some expenses, which include property taxes and insurance. In the event of a loan too, the expense will include that mortgage payment, so that'll be included. And let's dive into our first example, shall we? All right, so as we get into this property, we're gonna assume that we bought this property cash. First of all, it's gonna take you a long time to save up the cash to buy this property because you got the closing costs. Let's just say $1,000, repairs, you got $9,000, and then total initial investment is $110,000, and your rental income is about $1,000 here. Now we get into the first year, we see we gained $7,000 in equity on the property. We have a cash income of $12,000 in rent. We have expenses of $3,500, and we have an annual return, which gives you a return on investment of about just over 7%. Decent return on investment, better than any bond has been lately, so awesome. And as you can see, this return goes up each year because your gain, your equity grows up, and your cash income goes up. You have your expenses also rising, so we did factor that. And then you have your annual return. Now this is a perfect model. This is with no vacancies. This is with no repairs, all those kinds of things. You do need to factor that into how you look at these properties. We'll dive into that in another video though, okay? Now, to compare this compared to a property that has debt on it, let's look at our second example because they're dramatically different from one to another. All right, here we purchased a rental property, same property, $100,000 property, and we have $2,000 in closing costs because there's a lender point added in there. And then we have a down payment of $20,000, a lot less out of pocket, okay? Loan interest of 5% and repairs of $9,000. Total investment is around $31,000 out of pocket to buy this with a rent of $1,000. I'm gonna pay the bank over a 30-year term over $150,000 in interest payments on this house. And I know you're probably thinking like, that's a ton of money. Why give the bank all that money? There's an answer to that. Let's dive into the numbers, okay? Cool, so equity gained $7,000. Again, the equity is the same from one model to the other. That doesn't really change anything there. But when you look at some other things, like when we start looking at expenses, yeah, your expenses are much higher. And then you look at your loan pay down. This wasn't in the other example, right? Because there was no other loan on there. But you got to remember that every time that a tenant pays that rent, you're getting money that's going down on the principal of the home. And it'll start off the first year extremely unimpressive, maybe just over $1,200. Not a lot of money. And near the end, you'll be seeing like upwards of $5,000 to $10,000 in 1 year in equity that you're getting. So that goes up slowly over time, giving you a better return. Your annual return now between all of these is again $8,000, $15,000, $24,000, $42,000, right? And you'll see that our return on investment is significantly higher here just because you use debt to buy that property. Really fantastic return on investment there. Now, something we didn't really talk about when it comes to return on investment is taxes. And there's a lot of ways to maybe pay less taxes or defer those tax payments until a later time with rental property investing. And I would say that yes, it does create a better return for you, but I didn't include that in this video as an example because that's going to vary a lot from person to person to person. Their income, their situations, the number of investments they have, the cost, the time they spend on real estate, investing, all that kind of stuff, right? So talk to your tax person, your tax CPA, so on and so forth, to help you figure out how that looks like on ROI there too. So Anyways, I hope this video helped you. The key thing I want to point out is that debt really does change how ROI is impacted, and to look at the way that you're getting ROI through not just the cash flow, because we don't look at stocks through just dividends. We look at the holistic picture, and there's a little bit more to rental property investing than meets the eye. J&A Home Buyers is based in Katy, Texas. We love working with realtors, with wholesalers, with other investors. If you are in the area, do connect with us. Follow us on social media, connect with us on our website. We got an email that we blast out to folks with our content all the time. Subscribe on YouTube. We want to make sure we're staying in touch with you and find ways that we can work together to help you grow and get you on your way, to get your deal done. Keep us posted.